My mum said something to me recently that really stuck. When talking about the loss of a couple of her dear friends, she said, "I've got photos of them, but I'd give anything to hear their voice again." And I realised how lucky I am to already be capturing voices, movement, and life. You've got to film the things and people that matter to you. And while that's a little heavy, don't worry, this episode isn't. Because documenting your life, it should also be fun. So here's why I film mine and why you might want to start filming yours. It doesn't need to be fancy or polished or even shared, it just needs to exist. First up, and most importantly, it's fun. When I'm not shooting for a client, not juggling revisions, deadlines or brand guidelines, I try to make sure I'm just out as much as possible with a camera, pointing it at the world and at my life. That's the feeling that got me into this in the first place, and I don't want to lose it. Second, it's challenging, in all the best ways. You've got no crew, no script, no schedule. You've got the light you've got, the weather you've got, the moment you've got. It really forces you to respond, to improvise, and to actually see. In Cornwall, that often means dodging sideways rain or leaning into the wind until the storm passes. Sometimes the weather becomes the story. Sometimes the shot you're after disappears and something better replaces it. You get nimble and you adapt. And then third, the emotional bit. As I said at the top, those voices and moments that people wish they'd recorded, I'm so lucky to already be doing that, and I want to do more. I've got Meg, my partner. She's my muse, my favourite subject. She's the heart of so much of what I film. She's endlessly patient, humours my worst video habits, lets me stop in the middle of the walk to fire up the Komodo, focus on a blade of grass and go again. And she smiles the whole time, which is so wonderful. These clips of Meg, painting, cycling, laughing, playing cards on a beach, they're personal, but they're also practice. And sometimes they become something more. And these days, Meg started getting booked independently for small acting and modelling gigs. And that's honestly thrilling. It started with personal footage, but it's opened up something new, and we're nurturing it. It feels great, organic and earned. Filming your life is, hands down, one of the best ways to become a better camera operator. Because you're not just learning how to use your gear, you're learning how to see with it. You stop overthinking exposure, you start trusting your eye, you don't hesitate when something beautiful happens, you just lift the camera. And you do it often. Repetition builds fluency. The simple truth is, the best camera operators are the ones who shoot the most. Even if the footage never sees the light of day, even if it's rough, even if it's out of focus, which sometimes it is, you're building muscle memory and you're sharpening instincts. Also, got a piece of kit that gathers dust, a lens you swore you'd test, an accessory you thought was going to change your filmmaking forever? This is your excuse. I've got underwater housing I barely touch most of the year, but every now and then I grab the housing and suddenly I'm learning things about framing, movement, and my own buoyancy I never would have learnt on land. The same goes for my Kessler Cine Shooter setup, or the tilt-to-follow focus, or a little VND that lives in the wrong pouch until I need it. Filming life is the perfect testing ground. No client breathing down your neck, no budget to protect, just you and the kit. And I make mistakes, and then I fix them, and I improve. And all of that spills into client work, inevitably. You get faster, more prepared, more creative, less rattled when things don't quite go to plan, because you're used to thinking on your feet. Most of my favourite footage wasn't even shot on my favourite cameras, the Komodo or the FX6. It was shot on my phone, or the A7S III, or the X100V, whatever was in reach. Sometimes it's just not practical or desirable to lug around a full rig, especially if you're trying to live in the moment. And that's where the gear disappears and the story takes over, or even just the image takes over. I try and shoot with whatever I have to hand, and it's great when that's a proper cinema camera. But a lot of the time, like everybody else, that's my phone. And you know what? That's totally fine. There's something completely liberating about not having the perfect setup, about not chasing technical perfection, and it just forces you to concentrate on what matters. And that's how you build a catalogue of these real moments. Take the lifeboat for instance. I volunteer as a helm on the inshore lifeboat here, and obviously, filming during emergency shouts is completely inappropriate. It's unthinkable. There's zero space for distractions. But during training, that's a little different, especially when I'm one of the responsible adults on board, sometimes the only one. That comes with a weight of responsibility, but it also gives me a little bit of freedom. These home waters have been a lifelong inspiration for me, and I'm lucky enough to be able to capture them when they're at their wildest, and also sometimes when they're at their calmest. All of it a valuable moment. Valuable not for social media clout, but because these moments are part of my life, and they matter to me. And if I've got a camera to hand, that will help me remember it in years to come. And now and then, something funny happens. You film something personal, a walk, a picnic, a lazy Sunday moment, you throw together an edit, and suddenly it has unexpected legs. Someone asks if they can use the footage, or the clip becomes a reel, or it ends up in your portfolio or someone else's. It wasn't planned, but it works. One of our retainer clients literally pays us to film snippets of our life. It started informally, just moments we shared, but they saw value in it, and now it's part of the brief. That wasn't the goal, but it's a fantastic side effect. So don't be surprised if the things you capture casually, without intention, end up being the most useful things you've got. I keep coming back to this idea of creative maintenance. You know how musicians do scales or illustrators do doodles? This is kind of the same thing. I shoot little things, play, experiment, and because the stakes are so low, the freedom, it's sky high. I get to try new compositions, test how far I can push the dynamic range, shoot into the sun, always. Try, fail, try again. It keeps the camera from becoming just a tool. It keeps it fun. And when the camera's fun, you use it all the time. Also, it keeps me present. I notice the way the shadows fall across Meg's face in the morning, or how the mist curls over the hills on a cold day, or how golden the light is just before dinner and how blue the hour is afterwards. I tune in and that spills over into everything. So here's my gentle nudge to you. Film your life. Not for YouTube, although you can if you want. Not for your reel, not even to share, just for you. Capture the walks, the breakfasts, the garden in bloom, the way your mate scrunches their nose when they laugh, your love. Use whatever you've got. A phone, a point and shoot, a decades-old DSLR, or even your favourite Cinecam. It doesn't matter. Got something you never use? Get it out. Give it a run. Shoot badly, then better, and then ultimately brilliantly. Don't worry about story or structure or grade, just shoot. Because later, maybe much later, you'll be glad you did. If you're already documenting your life, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a link in the comments. And if this resonated or made you want to pick up your camera, maybe consider subscribing. There's more on the way. Thanks for watching. Go and film something just for the heck of it. See you next time.